My name is Judy Stewart. I'm privileged to serve in outreach and special projects. The center is headquartered in Northern Virginia. It serves students and teachers across the United States, and two of our programs, the ones you'll hear about today, USA Biology Olympiad and Research Science Institute, have an international presence. Our mission, we were founded in 1983, and our mission is to nurture high school and university scholars to careers of excellence in leadership in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and to encourage collaboration between and among leaders in the global community. All CEE programs are offered cost-free to students competitively selected to attend. In addition to Dr. Michelle King, joining me today are the directors of the Research Science Institute and USA Biology Olympiad and 5 stellar student alumni. We asked these young scholars to share with you their experience in the programs. It is worth noting that they and the hundreds of young scholars who have come through CEE's programs are now part of a larger community that includes Nobel laureates, innovators, physicians, engineers, professors, and so many more. We hope something you hear today will inspire you to learn more about USA Biology Olympiad and Research Science Institute and perhaps apply. So let's begin with the end in mind. The CEE community fosters alumni camaraderie and academic achievement. It commits to alumni through their academic and professional careers, writing letters of recommendation as students apply for college, supporting them in internships and other career opportunities, networking events, career webinars, and introductions to company leaders and alumni professionals. I'd like to turn it over now to my colleague, Mrs. Maite Ballestero, who will share an overview of Research Science Institute, followed by colleague Kathy Frame, who will provide an overview of USA Biology Olympiad. Maite.
Thank you so much, Judy. And good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are in the nation. Students, thank you for taking time to learn about what we do. I will keep my comments brief, as I would like our alumni to really share their experiences with you. So the Research Science Institute is the first program in the United States to combine classroom instruction with actual research, hands-on research. The first program took place in 1984 and has been in session ever since. In 1992, MIT and CEE formed a partnership, and that is where the program, if able to happen in person, will take place on that campus. Who is it for? 11th graders. If you're currently in 11th grade, this is the time to apply. The application will open on November 22nd. Come to the CEE website and we will have the link there for you. We invite annually approximately 55 high-performing STEM students from across the nation and 30 international students. What do you do at RSI? Well, you go through the entire research cycle. And as you can see on this slide, you're going to be placed where these STEM opportunities are available, whether it's a laboratory at a university, a hospital, a corporate facility. Typically, it's in the Cambridge area, but as you will hear from our participants, we were virtual this past summer, so the internships were global in nature. And you will also have what I would say rock stars of STEM who will give you a guest lecture series in the summer that includes Nobel Prize winners, among other leaders in STEM. And at the end of this program, you will present your research both in the written format, in the scientific method, as well as an oral presentation. So that in a nutshell is what happens. And Judy touched on very nicely the alumni follow-up. You are with us forever. And we don't want to let go of you. We want to nurture you. We want to be there to share in all of your glory and introduce you to others. Always available. Alumni, you'll hear, are always available, and so are we at CEE. Thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait till you hear from the students.
Hello, my name's Kathy Frame. I was former director of the USABO, and now I serve as a consultant and advisor, right, to the USABO. And it's now called the USA Biolympiad. All right, can I have the next slide? It's a 4-tier competition. Most of you may know about it, may not. All right, ours is based on academic knowledge and ability to problem solve. So the first tier is what we call an open exam. We reach about 8,500 students, and then you can see on the slide itself, we go to a semifinal. Out of that 8,500, about 600 are selected. And then the next one is the national finals, which are about 20 students. Not about, there are 20 students. And then you see the number jump again, all right, the international, all right, that's 350 students. Those, out of those 20 students, 4 go to represent the United States at an international competition. This coming year, it's going to be in Lisbon, Portugal. Last year, we had a virtual IBO challenge, and it was held by Japan. All of our exams have always been on a Scantron basis. Beginning this year, they're going to be online. They'll be one day, one time, all right? And you can look at our schedule, which you'll see later, and it'll tell you exactly what those times are. The other thing I want to point out to you that will give you a lot of information on the USABO homepage, which is usabo-trc.org. We have what we call a student corner up in the toolbar. If you go down that toolbar, you're going to find past exams. You'll find study sources by our alums, journal links, links to the IBO curriculum, a rich, rich resource for you, right? And it answers a lot of the questions. This is our team from 2013. We were #1. All of our students were actually, we had #1 and 2 in the competition itself. First one was Charlie. He was #1 in the world. He now is at Mount Sinai working on COVID. The one beside him is Nikhil Budama. And Nikhil, all right, is presently starting, I think, his 4th business. He's done several books. His is all about getting healthcare into the hands of people that need it. Beside him is Li Ding. He actually finished 2nd in this challenge, and he is working in Germany, last I heard, all right, last time I had a talk with him, and he's working on neuroscience. The last one over there is Catherine Wu. She's the only one not really committed to the biology study here, but she is the product manager and designer for MasterCard. Next. All right, so the students, that was just those students there at when we were at Switzerland. But those top 4 go all over the world, and this is where they meet those 360 students. Here you'll see 4 of our students with students from Vietnam. One of the most richest parts of the International Biology Olympiad is how all of these students share at that national level and share their research. They communicate back and forth, write papers, conduct projects, all of that. So this is like the slide of it. Lucy and Bob are going to tell you a lot more about finals and a lot more about the international component too. All right, thank you very much.
So we thought it would be beneficial for everyone, instead of just hearing from the program coordinators, to hear from a wonderful student panel of our alumni. So please, during their introductions, if you have any questions, submit them to the chat or the Q&A function so they can be followed up by our panelists. So we have 3 panelists joining us from RSI: Ori from RSI 20, Danielle from RSI 2020, and Matthew from RSI 2018. And then we have 2 panelists joining us from USABO, Bob from USABO 18 and Lucy from both 2018 and 2020. If we can start with Ori.
So my name is Ori, and I'm from New Jersey. And my research area of interest is in computer science and physics research. I love working at the intersection between these 2 fields. And my project this summer was on working on a program that, given the data from a physical system, can extract the key variables that define the physics of that system. And I was building off of this program to make it better at analyzing chaotic physical systems, such as those involving turbulence in fluid dynamics or the propagation of a flame front, and even some occurrences in plasma physics as well. So I think what I'd like to first talk about is some of the 3 key takeaways from the RSI experience. And I think that, well, one key takeaway is the exposure to new concepts in my area of interest and having the opportunity to work on them. That's definitely one of the key takeaways. I got the experience of working with a newer, or should I say a less explored, architecture and machine learning research. It's called the Echo State Network. And it was such a fascinating topic, and I had a great deal of enjoyment working on it, and I learned a lot from it. And it's not even just from your project that you learn more about or are exposed to new research areas, but also from the lecturers who come to visit. They tell you the details of their project and also their own experiences in research. And even the community, which I think is the second key takeaway, and one of the best things about RSI, is that it's an open resource. So you can reach out to anyone, whether it be your peers or alumni from like 2-3 years ago or even more. And there's going to be a way that you can work with each other on the new topics that you're learning, or even just learn from their experiences. And I got to experience that, and I think that was really great. Even though this year was virtual due to COVID-19, that community was strong enough and pulled itself together, so there was no loss in the experience there. And hopefully when you guys are able to do RSI this year, we will be able to meet in person. But either way, it was a terrific experience, and I learned a lot from it.
Thank you, Ori. And up next, we have Danielle from RSI.
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Danielle Paulson. I'm currently a senior in high school at the Horace Mann School, which is in the Bronx, New York. And I also take college math courses at Columbia University concurrently. I've lived in New York for all of my life, and I'm very passionate about research in STEM, and I intend to pursue an undergraduate major in math and computational biology. At my high school, I'm president of the math team and also editor-in-chief of my school's science publication called Spectrum. Outside of school, I'm a student researcher at a lab at Johns Hopkins University where I've conducted bioinformatics research for the past 3 years. So this summer, I was incredibly fortunate to be able to attend RSI 2020. And my RSI experience, as Ori mentioned, was unique in that this was the first year that RSI was held completely online via Zoom due to the pandemic. But nevertheless, my RSI experience really did have a meaningful impact on me as both a student and person. And I think my top 3 takeaways from RSI this past summer were the sense of community among the students, my research experience, and RSI's special guest speaker series. The people at RSI are truly one of a kind. The students are really passionate about what they do. They're really motivated to make an impact on the world, and they come from around the globe. So getting to talk to students from such different backgrounds from my own was a very enriching experience, and that really allowed me to learn something new every day. RSI community is also really supportive, and my counselors, tutors, and friends, they were always willing to give me a helping hand whenever I needed it. My research experience at RSI was equally as amazing. I performed research in computer science and immunotherapy in the Department of Data Sciences, Center for Functional Cancer Epigenetics at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And my project was focused on the development of a computational approach to identify differential immune cell populations between immunotherapy responders and non-responders. Taken as a whole, this research opportunity was really eye-opening because it allowed me to pursue research at a very in-depth level and left me with so much new knowledge. And then also lastly, RSI's guest speaker lecture series was something I'll never forget. We got to hear from Nobel laureates, scientists pursuing research at the forefront of their fields, entrepreneurs, and more. And the speakers, they were really amazing role models who are really inspiring. And I think it's worth mentioning that RSI is more than just a summer program. Participating in RSI allowed me to become part of a larger support network of RSI alums who are always reaching out to us and offering opportunities. The program made us aware of amazing internship opportunities and provided us with really invaluable connections that I think are going to serve me well in college and beyond. Through RSI, I was able to establish a great relationship with the research lab that I worked with at Dana-Farber. I continue to stay in touch with my research mentors there. So that's a really meaningful connection that I made through RSI and that I think will continue to last for a long time. Also, as was mentioned in the introduction, I think it's important to point out that RSI plays a really important role in helping its students through the college application process, which I found to be very helpful as I'm applying to college right now. And so all in all, I'm really thankful to have been part of RSI 2020 and to be part of the RSI community for the rest of my life.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for sharing your experience. Up next, we have Matthew Tan from RSI as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Matthew. I am currently a sophomore at Stanford University studying aerospace engineering, but I was fortunate enough to attend RSI in 2018, where I worked with Aurora Flight Sciences studying drone collision avoidance techniques for when drones don't have, say, GPS or a known knowledge of the topography of an area, using onboard sensors and real-time kinematics to create naive pathfinding methods for high-speed navigation. I'm sure as you can tell, I'm very passionate about all things aviation and aerospace research. We call it wings and things. And RSI was very important to me in solidifying my, my interest in going into this field. The top three takeaways for me from RSI was, number one, the accessibility of the program. So I personally hadn't had a lot of formal scientific experience prior to RSI. I'd never really participated in science fairs before. But going into RSI, the support network that they put in place and the framework that they put in place to slam you through the entire research project start to finish in 6 weeks is honestly incredible and very unique. It's one of the most unique things about the RSI program. Going in, you have tutor groups and you have all the other gifted students from around the world, and they have university classes with professors from MIT and all over. I remember there's a fantastic lecture from a Caltech particle physics professor. And they really slam you through the entire research process and they give you every tool that you need, that no matter what your background and experience, they'll make sure that you have the support in place to be able to complete a research project within those 6 weeks, which I think is something very unique and incredible about the RSI program. Second of all, what I found very interesting is that I'm not sure whether the CEE people tell the mentors who we are or what we're doing, but they certainly don't treat us like 11th graders in the conventional sense from what I've found. Going in, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but it certainly wasn't a watered down program whatsoever. It wasn't some educational program. It was real scientific research with real world applications. I'm sure as my colleagues will tell you today that these weren't self-contained scientific experiments designed for a high school curriculum. This was something that a company or a university lab was actually working on at the time that we go and participate in the program. And it's something that we get thrown right into and get to have a hand in, helping advance an actual project in science. And I think that's actually incredible that one would have the opportunity to do something like that in high school. Finally, the third thing that I found to be very interesting about the RSI program were, of course, the students. And this is something I'm sure is echoed by all my colleagues here today. Students are what really makes the RSI program special. Going in, you know that these are all top achieving students. They're all very passionate in their fields, but it's not in the slightest competitive. In fact, all the students are very helpful to each other. There's late night conversations about the AI takeover, all sorts of different, passions and knowledge fields coming together to, help each other and support each other. Coming across in my research, I needed a crash course in quaternions, and I just asked, and there was like 3 people that already knew it that were ready to talk about it. It's a very supportive network, and I found that to be a very unique part of the RSI program. The RSI program, as Danielle mentioned, it doesn't just stop with the single program, USABO as well. The CEE network continues to support you beyond the program. And for me, one of the ways that the RSI experience benefited me was helping me get internships following the programs. 2 years after I did RSI, I managed to, through CEE, get an internship with the Department of Defense. And in my field of aerospace engineering, that's phenomenal. That's incredible to get that kind of internship. And this is something that, I'm very grateful to CEE for helping. And of course, with college applications, internship, the alumni network, it's a network that keeps on giving. It doesn't just stop with the program. RSI was instrumental in solidifying my interest and my desire to pursue aerospace engineering in college. And it was definitely a unique experience for the people. And I was fortunate enough to go to the program in person in 2018 at the MIT campus. And the people are what really made the experience unique for me. It's beyond the science, beyond everything. It's the alumni network and the friends that I make and now go to university with and still share meme group chats with.
Thank you so much for that, Matt. And so right now we'll be taking any questions you have for the panelists about their experiences at RSI. Please submit them to the Q&A or the chat. So one of the first questions that I see is, how did you guys go about choosing your research projects?
So at RSI, they try to pair you with mentors who are experienced in your areas of interest. And for me, that was in computer science and physics research. So I got paired with the MIT Photonics and Electromagnetics Laboratory. And my mentor had an interesting project that he was working on, and he thought that that would be a good fit for me based on my interests. And I also fell in love with it as well. So you are paired with people who are experienced in your areas of interest, and you get to work on some of their projects on the forefront with them.
I'll add on to that with the application process. They do a really good job through the questions and the essay responses of getting to know, what you're interested in the field. Of course, there's no guarantee that you get the exact field that you're looking for. Right? For example, I applied for aerospace, and I wasn't exactly sure what field of aerospace I would get. So they won't get you the exact project that you get, but whatever mentor that they match you with, it will definitely be well aligned with your interests. Even though it's not exactly what you were thinking, it'll still be a fulfilling experience in that regard, and even teach you something, expand the breadth of what you thought you were interested in or give you new skills, building upon your existing ones.
Thank you guys so much for your questions. So the next question we have is, what do you think made you stand out when applying to RSI? And Danielle, would you like to start with this one?
Yeah. So I think when I was writing my application, what I kept in mind was the idea that I really wanted my passion for, the areas that I was interested in to shine through. I wanted to make the readers who are going to look at my application, understand that I was dedicated, I was committed.
I'm going to jump in. This is Judy. And the next question we have is, let's see, if you can only apply to RSI as an 11th grader, what is the best thing to do during the 10th grade to get ready? Ori?
So for me, if you're interested already in 10th grade about getting into RSI and doing scientific research, what I would say is definitely explore to the fullest the fields that you're interested in. For me, I loved physics, and I was also fascinated with physics research, but it didn't actually start out that way. I was just interested in learning to do physics and physics competitions as well. And then I got to explore research on my own individually. And also I know that there are people who get into RSI. RSI accepts people no matter what their background is, whether you did research in 10th grade or not. So it's not really a criteria or any checkboxes that you have to fill in order to get into RSI. As long as you are very passionate about your fields of interest, and you, even without RSI, you take every opportunity around you to be able to explore that area of interest, that would make you prepared for RSI, because RSI is an amazing wealth of resources. And if you already are familiar with using whatever resources you have around you to explore your interests, I think that's the best way to prepare yourself, because between the community and your mentors, I got to work with the MIT Photonics and Electromagnetics research group and attend some of their meetings, even the ones that weren't related to my project. There's just so many opportunities to learn. So to best prepare yourself, I would say explore your interests to the fullest. Some people came to RSI without any research experience. I was fortunate to have had ideas for projects when I was in 10th grade and be able to pursue that on my own. So just focus on your passion. That's the simplest way to phrase it, and keep your eye on exploring how to use it. And not only will that prepare you for RSI and really demonstrate that you're ready to pursue this work, it'll make you, when you get into RSI, ready to, help you make the most of your experience there.
Thank you, Ori. And we're going to do one question or combine two questions for you, Maite, as the director. And then please know that we're not going to overlook any of the questions. We'll just try to grab them as we keep moving forward and answer them either at the end or post them to the website afterward in terms of a response. But for you, Maite, do you take classes based on your interest, and what is the criteria for getting selected out of all the applicants?
I think you've heard from our alumni. If you are not pursuing your passions and you're not taking advantage, you do not have to do research, but if you're not taking advantage of what's around you and you're not trying to do things outside the classroom, whether it's independent with a teacher, with anyone, you're not going to be as interesting. We also love to see people who do community service. All of them do community service. All of them give back. All of them have leadership positions in different things, not just STEM. So we're looking for people who are pursuing everything around them and not fixated on everyone has to have straight A's, everyone has to be in the top 1% when you're looking at standardized testing. That's helpful, but I don't want to sound like a cliche, but very top tier driven students are going to have a lot of those credentials and take time to answer the essay questions. That is revealing. That is what is shared with your mentor. That's why the matches really closely align with your passion and your interest. It's very deliberate. We've taken more than 30 years to hone those questions. And that's where I want you to spend the time. Your transcript will speak for itself, your standardized testing, if it's available, because I don't want anyone right now, given COVID, to freak out and not apply to us because, gee, I didn't get to take the PSAT or the SAT, and I didn't get to take any of the subject tests. Go forward. You've been in classes. Share the transcript. Share the passion. That's the most important thing for us.
And just a little something, Maite, about the classes that students take during the week of RSI. I know it's a 6-week program, but there's 1 week that's dedicated exclusively to classes. Can you speak just a little bit about that?
Sure. We give them an opportunity to choose. There's one class everyone's going to take, and that's a humanities class. You're going to read a book, you're going to read a play, you're going to read something, and you're going to talk about it as a group. Then you have a choice if you want to take chem, bio, engineering, physics, math. I wish I could do computer science. And then we have a night where we have a very long guest lecture series on economics. We believe that's very, very important. I haven't quite figured out how to add more classes. Maybe my smart alumni can tell me how to make this happen. But they choose, and that's based on your interest, that's based on your passion. And these classes are taught in large part by RSI alumni. All of them, with the exception of the humanities, are RSI professors at leading universities. And they're available to the students after. If you want to keep talking about math with our professor of mathematics at Princeton, you're free to do so.
Thank you so much. I hope for the 179, which is fantastic, of those of you who are on the webinar now, I hope you're hearing some common themes of camaraderie, intensity, and continuity, that we stay with our students throughout their careers, and many are just at the forefront of their fields. And the same can be said about USA Biology Olympiad. So let's turn it over now to Bob and Lucy to share a little bit about USA Biology Olympiad, and then we'll come back for some more questions at the end. Who's going first? Bob?
Sure. Yeah. So Lucy and I will do a joint kind of discussion of this whole program. So hi, I'm Bob. I'm a sophomore at MIT, and I'm majoring in brain and cognitive sciences. I was a member of the National Finals program back in 2018.
Yeah, I'm a freshman at MIT, and I plan on studying biological engineering and economics. And I was extremely blessed to be able to attend USABO National Finals in 2018 and 2020.
Great. So we'll start with a discussion of our overall experience in taking the open and semifinal exams, and then shift into a discussion of our experience at the actual national finals program. So in terms of my experience taking these exams, they're definitely extremely challenging. They teach you how to think outside of the box and apply content that you've seen in high school, but like in high school classes or in different textbooks, but to very novel situations, novel research, and the main purpose of the exams is basically to test your ability to effectively understand and integrate data across a variety of disciplines, even within biology. So that includes human physiology, plant physiology, like molecular biology, and others. Definitely, I think that the exam does a fantastic job, and over the past few years, it's been shifting more in that direction of data interpretation.
Yeah, and elaborating upon what Bob had said, the first time I personally took the exam, taking the open exam for the first time was very, very challenging for me. And I had no idea that just a single choice, multiple choice question could pack so much content into it. And as Bob said, the exam requires you to integrate large amounts of data, which is a skill that is super relevant today in the workforce and in the lab. And USABO really helps you hone that both at the open level and at the national level. And then, as Bob also said, over the years, we're focusing more and more on your understanding of real biological skills. So being able to really flexibly and quickly understand data and to merge the knowledge you have to solve a critical question. And I also just wanted to quickly comment on the virtual version of the open and semifinal exams. So last year, the open exam was taken normally at your school or a verified testing site, but the semifinal this year was held via Zoom, as well as the national finals, which we'll get into later. But the virtual version is basically the same experience, same level of questions and same types of questions, except that you would be proctored very carefully using Zoom and other software, and you would also be proctored in groups. So sometimes the tech issues did show up, but it was very streamlined overall. So after we took the open and semifinal exams, I'm sure Bob and I can both say that we were very, very surprised to have gotten into the top 20 in 2018. And even today, the camp experience is definitely one of the greatest experiences we've ever had the pleasure to have. So we want to quickly overview what happened at camp. So one of the major parts of camp were labs and practical experiences. So in those labs, we were taught by phenomenal professors at the University of California at San Diego, and also amazing USABO alums and TAs. We covered everything from microbiology to plants, dissections, biochem, even systematics, evolutionary genetics, and many others. And so this kind of amalgamation of biology in both the wet lab sense and the dry lab sense was very illuminating and definitely helps me with my future research as well. And I just want to comment that simply the professors just were always willing to hold after lab conversations to really help us expand upon what we were confused about or clarify certain topics. And also just the sheer availability of the professors, the TAs, and the alums even to today is phenomenal, and they're always willing to help out with whatever topic. And even Bob, he helped me out so much when I was in my college application process. And it's just this wonderful community of alums who are always available to offer a word of encouragement or a word of wisdom, and I'm so thankful for that. Along the same lines, sometimes we had excursions at USABO, which really showed us that biology isn't just limited to a lab. For example, we went to the Scripps Institute of Oceanography, where we saw the Pacific Ocean, first of all, and also cool animals from the ocean. And we also had the opportunity to dissect them, which was very illuminating and very cool. And we also went to the Venter Institute, where we got a wonderful book about Dr. Venter's journey. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Venter led the first draft sequence of the human genome. It's really an honor to hear about major scientists' journeys, because you really don't hear that a lot in everyday life. And hearing their stories is very inspirational. Bob, you want to talk about the speakers?
Sure, yeah. And I just wanted to preface this next portion of the discussion by basically echoing what Lucy, Danielle, Ori, and Matthew basically mentioned about how the overall CEE, so both both RSI and USABO groups are extremely supportive even afterwards. I'm still involved in actually both groups to this day, and I look forward basically to being involved, onwards. I think that it's a super supportive group, and it really is inspirational to see all of our kids basically, succeeding and accomplishing such awesome things every year. So I'll shift the next portion of the discussion now onto the speakers portion of the national camp. So every single day at national finals, we had a lunch speaker session in which we essentially invited people who are extremely accomplished in any aspect of biology. So this included oftentimes researchers, physicians, physician scientists, entrepreneurs, people working kind of at the intersection of all of these fields, and even people who are involved in the pharmaceutical industry. And so I think it's very inspirational hearing the experiences, the life journeys of all of these people, how they were able to kind of start off with very little knowledge and work with peers to basically define a problem, form a solution, use their skills of biology to help advance humanity in one way or another. And I think especially from the national finals held this year over the past summer. So I was actually involved as a TA, and I think that one of my favorite lunch speaker sessions was that with Nobel laureate Jim Allison, and I'm sure Lucy will also speak at length about that. But basically, he is over at the MD Anderson Cancer Center in Texas, and he along with the team was involved in discovering how we can use immunotherapy to actually improve patients' cancer treatments. So it's like a huge aspect now of oncology, and just hearing his experiences, how he kind of was able to lead this, I think, very fundamental discovery, and even seeing just how humble he was in kind of his whole path, his whole journey, was extremely inspiring, both for me and for all of the other national finalists. So definitely these speaker sessions are a core aspect of the program, and I think it's an opportunity for all of us to learn from people who have accomplished exactly what we hope to accomplish in the future. Next, I'll speak about the other aspects. So we, as Lucy mentioned, we have these like lab sessions in the day, and then also at night we have our 4 TAs, all of whom are former national finalists themselves and now in college. They basically provide late night lectures for all of the national finalists, and these lectures are designed to basically help streamline our skills in preparation for the actual exam held at the national camp level, as well as help to prepare the 4 students who are ultimately selected for the IBO. And so I think that these lectures go far beyond just like your traditional content, in that it's a very kind of fun, engaging atmosphere. I know that oftentimes these are where, for instance, many of the meme group chats were actually formed. These are where we had the experience to actually test out our skills in a more streamlined fashion. So it's just awesome not only hearing the content from all of these distinguished faculty and professors, but also from our own former alums who have gone through this exact same whole process, and who might be able to give like an additional insight or perspective on the exact same content. I think that was a fantastic aspect of camp, and usually following these late night TA lectures, we would oftentimes just all as students gather in the lounge and basically discuss different aspects of interesting problems that we find on the problem sets, for instance. And I wanted to actually echo one more sentiment that Matthew expressed, which is that it's a very kind of cooperative environment. I think overall there's kind of this view that like at the nationals kind of level, people are very, very competitive, but I felt almost the exact opposite. I felt that people were super helpful. People, like if I had asked either a TA or one of my fellow finalists for help or just like a different insight on solving the exact same problem. People really enjoy kind of working together, understanding new insights. And so it's just a fantastic experience. And to this day, I'm in touch with like Lucy and all of the other national finalists who I was with back in 2018. So I think that the lounge was just a place where kind of all of us bonded. We got to kind of like know each other on a more personal on a more personal level. It's oftentimes very kind of easy to fall into the flow of kind of, you know, studying all day, but I think in general the national finals has several opportunities for games and other kind of, you know, personal interactions. So next, I think Lucy will just conclude with some aspects of the other bonding experiences, and then we'll shift into the panel question.
Yeah, so definitely what Bob said, the environment there was definitely not competitive, like in any sense of the word. Like you would think that like since the stakes are so high to get to the international level that people would not be willing to collaborate, but it was entirely the opposite. For example, like I feel like a lot of times I learn more in day-to-day life than actually in the lab. And it was very true at finals. So we had this place where we got food called 64 Degrees on campus. And other than the fact that the food was also excellent, we had a lot of interesting conversations around the food. We talk about, you know, day-to-day life, maybe like challenges we were facing in the lab or in lecture that day. But at the same time, we also did some nerdy things. Like we would identify like what plant family the vegetable on our plate was. And it's through these little things that you really learn a lot about other people and you really make those bonds. And that's just so incredibly valuable. And I also want to say that my lab partner, one of my lab partners at camp is actually one of my best friends, and she's also with me at MIT this year, and we still help each other out in a lot of things, and it's just this kind of bond that really never breaks because it was formed in such a setting. And so I would say my major takeaway is definitely the community. I know like everyone says that, it may sound a little cliche, but really just USABO really showed me that biology is so alive, not only because of just how expansive and how optimistic the field itself is, but also because of the people in it. They teach you and they inspire you, and you also teach and inspire them. And that kind of community is something I would never trade anything for. And now I'm going to shift into a little bit about virtual camp. So this year, unfortunately, because of the COVID situation, our entire 10 days of camp was held online through Zoom. But honestly, when I was coming in, I wasn't expecting too much because, as Bob will later say, they had to make a very rapid transition to the online experience. But I was very surprised to find that the online experience was equally as intense, if not more intense, than the in-person experience. And despite all the distance between all of the finalists, we were all able to build very strong friendships and community. And I think that just speaks to the nature of USABO itself. Like, you don't need to actually be in person in order to share your passion about something. And I think USABO is a platform that does that amazingly well. And the TAs were extremely flexible in, incorporating both lab skills like dissections via Zoom and also in-person elements like games or other kind of things. We also had phenomenal speakers like Bob said. I just want to especially point out Dr. Jim Allison. And his work is absolutely amazing, and it completely transformed cancer therapy. But if you met him, he's just such a down-to-earth person, and he plays the harmonica so well, and it just shows us that these scientists are people too, and it really motivates me personally to continue helping others, to continue pursuing my passions, because being someone like Dr. Allison and inspiring the next generation is really so valuable and so wonderful. And that's what I'm sure me and all of the other finalists would like to reach someday. And Bob, you want to speak a little bit about your experiences as a TA virtually?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think just in general, kind of our very rapid ability to shift into this new virtual format speaks volumes about how kind of effective the former alums are at trying to find, we saw this problem, and we we tried to find a solution. So I think the whole circumstance was that following the whole pandemic, CE had basically announced that the national finals was effectively canceled. And I think as former finalists, just seeing how like awesome the overall experience was, how much it's shaped kind of our futures, we wanted to basically do our best and shift this into a virtual platform. So essentially, as Lucy mentioned, we spent weeks just basically brainstorming how can we effectively proctor exams over Zoom. Are we able to still basically find speakers for the actual national finals? And I mean, obviously we were able to succeed at both of those. And I think that as a TA, it was just incredible to kind of engage with this past year's national finalists, think about a wide array of topics, and just in general keep on like nurturing their interests in all of the aspects of biology. So I was extremely honored and humbled and grateful to be a part of the national finals experience last year, and I am extremely confident that even if we are forced into a virtual format again in the future, that it'll be equally successful and equally inspirational. I think we'll shift over to the panel questions now. So yeah, thank you so much, Judy.
Thank you both. You're wonderful, wonderful panelists. All of you have given such inspiration. We have a host of questions for you. Most of them can be crystallized to how did you prepare for the exam and how much time did you study? Lucy, you want to start with that?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started studying for USABO in 9th grade. And the way I studied was first I went through Campbell's, which is kind of the standard textbook for USABO. And then following that, there are a lot of great resources. For example, for plant biology, there's a book called Ravens that most, if not all of the finalists have read. And after that, it's kind of just like searching the entire internet for any kind of problem sets from, major colleges or universities that you can get your hands on to do. And also one of the most helpful things for me personally while I was studying is reading through research papers at a fast pace and try to increase how quickly I understand the content in the paper, because that is a really essential skill for completing the exam questions efficiently and accurately. In terms of how long I studied, probably every day of the week, I would put in maybe like 3 to 4 hours for USABO after my normal schoolwork. And Bob, you want to share what your experience?
Yeah, so I definitely agree. I think it takes a lot of time in terms of like, going through all these different books. I think people often ask like, what is a good list of books? I think that there's no really good like list. You just have to read enough until you have seen enough examples that you are then able to effectively apply those concepts to, as I said, like novel circumstances, new data. And I think obviously, as Lucy mentioned, Campbell is the Bible of USABO and of biology. So once you've read that, just like a few other suggestions might include, for instance, Albert's for cell biology and Ravens for plant biology. But I really think that seeing as the exam is shifting more in this general direction of trying to very rapidly integrate new data and to effectively generate hypotheses, it'll be helpful also to start reading different research papers on exactly like seeing how these scientists use different methods to drive hypotheses and oftentimes answer them. So that's what I would say. And I began studying, I think at the beginning of my sophomore year. I only actually learned about the program at the end of my freshman year after meeting one of the former national finalists. So, and I was involved up until the end of my senior year.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your thoughtful responses. So our next question is, how did you guys express your passion for biology prior to USABO or SIN?
Yeah, I guess I can start with this one. So I think that, and I think this is perhaps true with many of the former finalists, that I was involved in a research project at my local university. So basically I was doing computational modeling for drug discovery. And I think the exact project doesn't matter as much as just the idea that like a high schooler would want to work with like a team and just like probe different aspects of biology. I think it's very important to, even if like you aren't involved in specific like research, just having this interest in exploring beyond what you oftentimes are taught in the high school classroom. I think that goes a long way. So even prior to even having heard about the actual exam and competition, I did some research, and then I think after that I would also oftentimes like just watch different YouTube videos from, for instance, Khan Academy on, you know, how like cells operate. I think just having had that fascination from a very kind of early age drove my passion for biology.
Yeah, for me, it's a little different than from what Bob said. So before I did USABO, I did do like a group research project through what's called the New Jersey Governor STEM Scholars Program. But after that, I really wanted to go into one of my own original ideas for biology. But unfortunately, for me, it was very hard to secure a research position because of my age. So I really didn't have any type of like very extensive individual research before USABO. But after USABO, I was able to get into a summer research program at Stony Brook University, and USABO played a very huge part there. The lab I joined was a chemistry lab, but the same skills that USABO nurtured is what I had to incorporate and had to use every day while I was at that lab. So I think the point is that like USABO really launches you into like a new chapter of your life, both in terms of theory and practice, not only in biology, but also in other areas of research.
Thank you both so much. My next question is for you, Kathy, and you may have answered this earlier, but it's coming up again. If a student wants to participate, but their school does not register for USABO, can that student still register on their own?
Go to the USABO homepage, which we now have on the chat. And when you look at that page down in the lower right corner, it says, if your school is not participating, please put your name in here. All right. So you'll put your name and information there. And what we do after December 1 is we match you with a school as best we can. We can't promise 100%. But yes, we do our best to match you with a school. And can't say too much about it now, but I think I'm going to have some alum help me with this year too. All right, to make sure that anyone that does want to take the exam has that opportunity.
Thank you so much, Kathy. We have one last question for our entire panel, and that is, how did you find your passion, your scientific passion? Lucy, we can start with you.
So actually, in terms of my scientific passion, I can't really name a specific field or like a specific project I was involved in, but I am very interested in tackling large problems, but on a small scale. So I'm especially interested in nanobiomaterials, but you know, I'm also interested in, you know, very disparate fields like economics or public health, because really I realized that in order to impact others, you really need a multidisciplinary approach. Like you can't just do research, or you can't just make policy. Having both sides really helps you to integrate the people you're serving, what their needs are, and that will help. Personally for me, I think that helps me to better define my own passions and serve others.
Thank you, Lucy. And Matt, how did you find your passion?
For me, it was kind of interesting. I always liked science, and so I just arbitrarily picked biology, like in middle school. And I was always on the track. Okay, I'm gonna study biology, and I went on and on and on until I tried to take like AP biology, the class, and it was not great for me. At which point, I had to take a step back, because I know I think a lot of students, they get into this mindset like, okay, well, I'm pretty good at this. I think I want to do this, and then they only, they keep themselves on that track and try to do it. For me, I kind of didn't do so well in AP Bio, so it made me step back. And I thought to myself, okay, well, what have I been spending a lot of time on, like outside? Because I didn't love AP Bio. It wasn't something that like I would willingly spend a lot of time to do. So, what was the thing that I wanted to do and spent a lot of time doing in my free time? And I realized, okay, well, I spent a lot of time doing robotics. I spent a lot of time doing computer science and building airplanes. And so I decided, okay, well, that's a field. I can go into aerospace engineering. And so I decided to start to look into aerospace engineering, and I started to take my, my little side projects more seriously. I liked building little gliders and stuff. And so taking that more seriously, I always thought, well, how can I make it bigger, better, stronger, faster, smarter, on and on. Just like Maite said before, finding the opportunities and maximizing the opportunities that are available to you. YouTube is a fantastic opportunity. So I went and built a lot of these aircraft, and that's how I discovered that, hey, I really like this aerospace engineering thing. And of course, the more you learn, the more you want to learn more, and it was a compounding effect for me. So that's kind of how I discovered that I wanted to be aerospace.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. Up next, Bob.
Yeah, so I think even like now I'm still kind of discovering my scientific passion. I think that just having gone through this whole experience of being at national finals and being involved even now to this day, I'm really fascinated by this new and emerging field of being a physician scientist. I think that is very awesome that people can work both in direct patient care, but also work to drive advances in research itself. And after having met, for instance, Dr. Jim Allison, and seeing how his work has a direct impact on how we now treat like patients who have cancer, I find that awesome. As Lucy mentioned, I think that there's definitely a huge value in having this multidisciplinary approach. For instance, I also am extremely fascinated by this field of healthcare economics, and as a former IBO student is now involved in obviously how can we expand access to healthcare nationwide. I think that that's also an extremely interesting and engaging field. So I think that I'm still kind of working on exploring all of these passions, but no matter kind of what I ultimately choose to pursue, it'll definitely be grounded in trying to give back in some way to all of the people who have helped me reach where I am now.
Thank you so much, Bob. And last but certainly not least, Danielle, how did you find your science passion?
Yeah, so I first became interested in math and science just in middle school, taking like standard classes. I was always attracted to math and science, I think, because I like this idea of taking a logical, methodical approach to solving larger problems. And when I was younger, actually for several years, I was a pre-professional dancer with the New York City Ballet at Lincoln Center. And I was always attracted to science because it provided me with like a sense of balance. Through ballet, I had this like larger, more artistic abstract. I was exploring more artistic abstract ideas, whereas in science, it was more methodical, more logical. And so I liked striking that balance. And then when I got into high school, I was able to pursue math and science in greater depth. Through the research that I did at Johns Hopkins, I learned so much more, became more focused in computational biology. And then through RSI, was further able to expand upon the research I'd already done and learn even more. And similar to what Bob said, I'm still exploring what I'm interested in. I have general ideas about what I'm passionate about, but in the coming years, I'm ready to still try different things out and continue to narrow down what I want to do in my future career.
Thank you all. We appreciate your comments. And I want to make sure that as we come to the close, that we share key dates with you for RSI and USA Biology Olympiad. And Maite, if you will share a little bit about RSI, the key dates, and Kathy, if you'll walk through the USABO, and then we'll have some closing comments, try to catch a few more chat questions before we allow you to enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thank you again for spending time with us today. Maite?
Sure. Thank you so much, Judy. So the RSI application will open on November 22nd. I will put a link in the next few weeks on the RSI home page on the CEE website. We will close the application on January 16th at 11:59. Don't dilly-dally, it will actually shut down. And right around the first week of March, students will be notified of selection electronically. You apply electronically, we respond that way. regardless if we're in person or if we are virtual. The program will be in session June 27th to August 7th, 21. Sorry, there's a weird typo, but it's June 27th to August 7th, 2021.
Okay, and for the USABO, our registration ends for schools on December 4th. There are a few days after that for student registrations to be completed. I believe it's like December. It's December 11. The next date there is January 19th, 2021. All students who register this year for the USABO will also register with the Art of Problem Solving. Art of Problem Solving is going to be administering the exam. So those students who have registered by the date in December will be registering also with Art of Problem Solving, have an ID for them and an ID for the USABO. On the 19th, you'll go through a practice exam to see what issues you might have with your technical issues with computer access, internet, all those things, because it will be online. Then the real exam for the open will be on February 11th, and that should again be 2021 at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And then the semifinal will be April 16th, 2021 at 4 p.m. It's the only time we'll have it, Eastern time. And then we will go ahead with finals as well. The dates we have set right now are May 22nd through June 5, 2021. And if it's virtual, it'll be virtual.
Thank you. And we'll make those corrections for the key dates. We just don't want to leave 2020, I guess. But we'll make those corrections and make sure all of this is posted on our website. We'll also have an audio of today's webinar on our website. A few questions I'm scrolling through, and if I miss them again, we'll be addressing them online. But one of the questions that I'm hearing is, do students, international students, have a different application deadline for RSI? Maite, can you answer that? Do international students have a different application deadline?
Yes, it will be mid-February. And I also saw some questions about the countries. Those change annually. So we will know more in December which countries are actually participating as sponsors.
Okay, and for now, the exam for USABO, that's all virtual, and that's taken at your, it's saying here, is that taken at your home or your school? Kathy?
Right now, it'll be at the schools. We're making all kinds of arrangements with testing centers. Stay tuned. We're going to be as flexible as possible.
Okay. Very fine. You will receive, all of our participants will receive a survey after today's webinar. We would greatly appreciate your feedback. We want to cast the net even wider and make sure that we're appealing to students, that they are inspired and exposed to our programs that are cost-free. And your feedback will help us a great deal to let us know who we are reaching and if we're reaching you effectively. So we ask that when we send this survey out to you, that you take a few more minutes and give us your feedback. We'd appreciate that very much. One of the other questions you have for us is, can we speak with the panelists offline by email? I will ask them their permission and follow up with that. If not, we still will be able to filter your questions to them, and you can always reach us. And the contact information is available, that should be on your screen right now. Certainly, please visit our website for specific information about RSI and USABO. You can contact Maite. Her contact information is there, maite@cee.org. And you can contact Dr. Michelle King at mking@cee.org as the director of RSI and USABO, respectively. Thank you ever so much for your time. We wish you a wonderful afternoon, and we hope to hear more from you. Please be on the lookout for that survey and give us your feedback. Enjoy your afternoon. Thank you.